these chapters discuss government as a part of the employment relationship. The second, Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938. The third, Prevailing Wage Laws. And the last, Pay Discrimination. What is it? Government as a part of the employment relationship. People differ in their view of what role governments should play in the contemporary workplace. Some call for organization the governments to act in concert and to carry out a public policy that protects the interests of employees. Others believe that less opportunities for employees are created by the constant change and reconfiguring that is inherent in the marketplace economies. The economy ought to be allowed to adapt and transform and distorted the government actions. All countries throughout the world must address these issues. However, different countries and cultures have different perspectives. Supply. In addition to being an employer, governments affects labor supply through legislation. Laws aimed at protecting specific groups also tend to restrict those groups' participations in the labor market. Compulsory schooling laws restrict the supply of children available to sell hamburgers or to assemble soccer balls. Licensing requirements for certain occupations, plumbers, cosmetologists, psychologists, restrict the number of people can legally offer a service. Demand and supply. Demand. The U.S. federal government employs 1.75 million people. States and local governments employs many times that. Government's employment is growing faster than population growth. Plus, governments tend to pay more than the private sectors. Overall, government's employment is 18% of the U.S. labor force. Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938. The Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938 covers all employees of companies engaged in interstate commerce or in the production of goods for interstate commerce. In spite of its age, this law remains a cornerstone of pay regulation in the United States. The FLSA's major provisions are minimum age, hours of work, and child labor. An additional provisions requires that records be kept of employees, their hours worked, and their pay. Minimum wage. Minimum wage legislation is intended to provide an income floor for workers in society's least productive jobs. When first enacted in 1938, the minimum wage was 25 cents an hour. It has been raised periodically in 2009. It was raised to $725 for the first state plus District of Columbia have their own minimum wage to cover jobs omitted from federal legislation. If states and federal laws cover the same job, the higher rates prevails. Several states have minimums higher than the federal rate, with Washington being the highest at 855 overtime and hours of work. The overtime provision of the FLSA requires payment at 1.5 times the standards for working more than 40 hours per week. The law's objective is sure available work by making the hiring of additional workers a less costly option than the scheduling of overtime for current employees. Child labor. Generally, persons under 18 cannot work in hazardous jobs such as meat packing and logging. Persons under 16 cannot be employed in jobs involving interstate commerce except for non-hazardous work for a parent or guardian. Additional exceptions and limitations also exist. Employee or independent contractor. Employers are legally obligated to pay Social Security and employment compensation, and workers' compensation tax on wages and salaries on behalf of their employees. In 2009, the average total compensation per employee was $29.39 per hour, with $20.39 of that being in the form of wages and salaries, and the remaining $8.90 being for benefits. Of the $8.90, $2.28 was for legally required benefits just mentioned. However, in the case of workers who is an independent contractor rather than an employee, the employer is not obligated to pay the legally required benefits. In addition, independent contractors would also typically not receive other benefits. Prevailing wage laws. Prevailing wage laws set pay for work done to produce goods and services contracted by the federal government. A government defined the prevailing wage as the minimum wage that must be paid for work done. Uncovered government project or purchase consider, for example, the Big Dig, Boston's $15 billion taxpayer finance project to put its freeways underground. A construction project of such magnitude attracts workers for a very wide area and distorts the labor market. Prevailing wage laws prevents constructors from using their size to drive down wage. Pay discrimination, what is it? The charge of discriminations and reverse discrimination that most often make the news informed. Access discrimination. The denial of particular jobs, promotions, or training opportunities to qualified women or minorities. The University of Michigan, for example, was accused of access discriminations for using differential standards among different racial groups to determine who is qualified for admission. A second, legally recognized interpretation of discrimination is biracial discrimination, which looks at the way women and minorities receive for the jobs they perform. This is the more silent definition for our purposes. The Equal Pay Act makes it clear that it is discriminatory to pay women less than males when they are performing equal work. This definition of discrimination hinges on the standards of equal pay for equal work.